Welcome to the Irish Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the Irish American Baseball Society. If you love Ireland and baseball, you're one of us. Visit us online at irishbaseball.org. Enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to episode 14 of the Irish Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Rick Becker, and we're doing things a little differently on the show today. My colleague Jim Ward will start things off with his interview with Portland Sea Dogs shortstop Ryan Fitzgerald. The Sea Dogs are the AA affiliate of the Boston Red Sox. With an all-star shortstop at the big league level and the organization drafting a shortstop earlier this month, one who also happened to be the top prospect entering that draft, Ryan will definitely be trying to build on his solid start to the 2021 season. Later in the episode, I will be playing some audio from Shaun Clancy's The Crack in the Bat show on Irish Baseball TV. Shaun has some very interesting interviews in conjunction with the Irish American Baseball Society. We'll have some snippets in just a little bit. Right now, I turn things over to my colleague Jim Ward. Who are you talking to today, Jim?
Portland Sea Dogs shortstop, bats lefty, throws right. He's a 6', 185-pounder out of Burridge, Illinois, and he's having a fantastic season this year for the Portland Sea Dogs. It's my pleasure to welcome a guy from Illinois, and we're going to find out if he's a Red Sox or White Sox fan at this point in his career, Ryan Fitzgerald. And Ryan, thanks for taking the time, buddy.
Thank you so much for having me on, Jim.
Hey, Burr Ridge, Illinois, maybe paint a picture for us of what Burr Ridge is like and what it was like growing up as a kid.
Yeah, so I was born actually right outside of Burr Ridge. I lived there for about 4 years, and then we moved to Detroit, Michigan. So I grew up playing a lot of hockey, actually, outside of Detroit. Lived there for 8 years, and then we moved back home to be with family in 2005. Back in Chicago, so we moved back to Burr Ridge, and yeah, pretty much same thing. I going into high school when we moved back, I couldn't really decide whether I wanted to play hockey or baseball in college, and baseball happened to win out. But I think if I stayed in Michigan, I would have played hockey. But yeah, I don't regret any decisions.
Did you ever think that hockey was going to be a route for you, or did you always know that it was going to be baseball?
Yeah, I mean, growing up in Michigan, pretty much everyone plays hockey. All my friends played hockey. So, yeah, I really thought that I was actually going to play hockey for the rest of my life. But moving back to Chicago, hockey just wasn't as big. The Blackhawks weren't quite good yet. Like I said, we moved back in 2005, and then the Hawks, I think they won their first one in 2010. So that was kind of missed being able to grow the game as much as in Detroit, with the Red Wings being so good in the early 2000s.
Well, you grew up, of course, with the Tigers in your back door. Were you a Tigers fan growing up?
I actually, believe it or not, was a Yankees fan growing up.
Oh, but that's boding well in the locker room these days.
Yeah, no one knows that. I keep that under wraps.
But what was your first introduction to baseball?
My dad. We would play pepper in the backyard. Me and my brothers would play pepper with my dad. And that's that's what I always go back to. Kind of one of the tools that I stand on is defense, and I think that played a huge role in that, becoming a good defender just from such a young age, playing pepper with my dad in a shaky backyard, getting some bad hops, and just learning to use your hands.
And obviously, you played Little League, I'm guessing, growing up, and then travel ball later on. What was that experience like playing travel ball for the first time and playing All-Stars?
Yeah, no, it was cool. One of the first teams that I was on, we were actually really, really good. We went to Cooperstown. We made it pretty far. And then obviously I moved back to Chicago, but I played for the Illinois Sparks in Chicago. It's one of the top teams in the country, top team in Illinois. A lot of guys come out of there playing. I mean, there's actually a decent amount of guys that I played with that are in the big leagues already. Back in the day, you don't realize it, but usually they tell you like, oh, be fortunate if one of you guys makes it to professional baseball, but majority of my team played professional baseball, and there's a good amount that it's in the MLB right now.
I'm glad you mentioned Cooperstown Dreams Park. I had a chance to umpire there, and the experience that kids get there is really amazing. You get to meet a lot of different people from around the country. You meet a lot of different kids. So a lot of former major leaguers are coaching there these days. And it's really an experience. Maybe tell the folks a little bit about your experience there and what it was like going there, because it really is. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it was incredible. I actually got to go twice. I got to go when I was 10 years old, and then I got to go again when I was 12 years old. So great experiences both times. And I even got to go and watch my older brother play there too. So I guess I got to go 3 times. But yeah, the whole atmosphere, I mean, they make you feel like a pro when you're a kid. And it's like the World Series for a week. It's really cool.
You still got your Hall of Fame rings?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah, they're sitting on my desk back home. Yeah.
When you were down there, what competitions I know they have the individual competitions. Which ones did you participate in?
I was in the home run derby contest actually. Yeah, so I was a home run shy of making it into the finals on the big field, but yeah, it was a good experience for sure.
It's nothing like hitting a bomb out of the big field, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
That main field is a lot like playing in a major league stadium. When you got your first chance to get to a major league stadium and walk in, did that memory come back to you?
Yeah, so actually my first major league stadium that I played in was Wrigley Field. I was in 7th grade, I believe, 7th or 8th grade.
Okay.
And I was playing for Cangelosi baseball. I'm not sure if you're familiar with John Cangelosi. Played for the White Sox. Yeah, so he was my coach back in the day, and I played for his team. In the fall, we had Cangelosi baseball, and in the summer, we'd play for the Sparks. And we set up a game there, and we were able to play there, and I got to play a little bit of short there. So that was my first experience in a big league ballpark.
Wrigley Field, and now you're on the path to go to Fenway Park. You must feel like on top of the world.
Yeah, no, it's crazy where I've come from. It's been a long journey and a long journey ahead for sure.
Tell us about the day you got drafted and the day that the Red Sox called you up and said, Ryan, we want you to be part of our organization. That had to be the best day of your life.
Yeah, so it's been even crazier for me because actually I never was drafted. I played 4 years. Yeah, I played 4 years college ball. Then in 2016 I graduated, and draft came and went. I thought there might have been a chance I would have got drafted, but I didn't really put together the senior year that I wanted to. But I knew I wasn't done playing baseball, so I was like, okay, I'm going to go try and play independent ball. And I reached out to a bunch of teams, and being from the Midwest, there's plenty of independent ball teams around there. And I got the same answer from all of them. They're like, hey, man, you can play, but like you don't have any pro experience, so we can't sign you. So I'm like, well, how am I supposed to get pro experience? Like, this is what this is for. So then the manager from the Gary South Shore Railcats, Greg Taggart, took a chance on me, and he let me play in 2017, and I played 1 year of independent ball, and then I was headed back to independent ball for 2018, and on like the second day of our spring training for independent ball, I was driving home, and my coach called me and said, hey, the Red Sox picked you up. So turned around, went back to the field, picked up all my stuff, and I was on a plane the next day, headed to Fort Myers.
What was it like to go down there to meet like some of the big league boys and to be welcomed into the organization?
Yeah, it was something else. My first game I ever played was with Dustin Pedroia because he was doing a rehab stint down in extended spring training. So first game we were playing, I think it was the Twins, and me and him were up the middle. He was playing second, I was playing short. Just talk about a pro. I mean, I don't need to tell you, but I got a couple good stories. So his glove that he was using, it was loose or something. He didn't like it, and we were talking like during the game a little bit, and I was like, hey, like I can relace that for you. I have like 26 gloves back home. I like relacing them and I collect them, so I'm pretty good with relacing them. I was like, hey, I can relace that for you. And he goes, oh, really, man? He's like, that would be sweet. So then he left the game in like the 4th or 5th inning or whatever. He was on a certain time schedule, and I was like, he probably forgot. But I got back to my locker, and he had his glove, $200, and a relacing kit sitting there for me.
Nice.
So, yeah, that was a cool experience.
It must feel good that, to be playing with a guy that's probably a Red Sox Hall of Famer. He was on the path to the Hall of Fame, but a guy that's pretty much world class. Is he like you that off the field as he's on the field?
Oh yeah, he's like I said, I didn't even know the guy, and he was the man. Like, he's just super cool, willing to talk to you. Like, just, yeah, he's the man. And there's not much more to say.
You're listening to the Irish Baseball Podcast. If you love baseball and if you love Ireland, join the Irish American Baseball Society. Visit us online at irishbaseball.org.
That was Jim Ward talking with Portland Sea Dogs shortstop Ryan Fitzgerald. I'm Rick Becker, and this is the Irish Baseball Podcast. This is just one of the many interesting projects that are being put out by the Irish American Baseball Society. Another one is the Crack and the Bat Show on Irish Baseball TV. On that show, Shaun Clancy, who created and maintains the Irish American Baseball Hall of Fame, talks with many of his amazing contacts in the world of baseball. You can see the full conversations at irishbaseball.org. Right now, I would like to play some audio clips from the show. This first one is from Shaun's discussion with retired MLB umpire Jim Joyce, who had an interesting story about a fellow umpire, Tim McClelland.
Well, Tim McClelland originally is from Clancy, Michigan. He went to Michigan State. We went to instructional ball 100 years ago together, and he actually drove back with me from St. Petersburg, Florida in 1978, I think it was. And he obviously was such a Michigan State fan, and at that time, and even to this day, like Coop, I'm a Notre Dame fan.
Right. Oh, I know that.
And that had a lot to do with my dad and my upbringing and stuff like that, and obviously with a name like Joyce. But we were sitting around one night with the whole crew of umpires at instructional ball, and instructional ball is after the season for about a month, and it fine tunes minor league umpires that they're interested in for moving up. And geez, that group was Tim McClelland, Tim Welke, John Hirschbeck, me, Billy Hahn was in that crew. And so anyway, we're sitting around having a few cocktails that night, and we get in an argument about Michigan State Notre Dame football. Now, Tim McClelland being 6'15", and me,
105 pounds.
Exactly. And me being about 5'11", I had a Kiss Me, I'm a Notre Dame fan on back in, 100 years ago. He literally ripped the shirt off of me and threw it out the window. And we laughed about that until the day that he retired. And if he's listening right now, he will remember that. I guarantee that.
I hope he is, or I hope he sees this. And if he does, Timmy, I hope you're doing well.
I hope so too.
I hope to see you soon.
Those college football rivalries certainly do run deep, especially with the fan bases at Notre Dame and Michigan State. As a Notre Dame fan myself, I certainly have to side with Mr. Joyce on that one. That being said, it is kind of interesting to hear about umpires and their rooting interests. We know umpires are expected to be neutral and unbiased, which means that they all have to try to suppress those allegiances that they had as fans. I think it's very similar to how things work in a lot of sports broadcasting. Back when I was the sports director for a statewide radio network in Pennsylvania, I traveled out to South Bend to cover Pitt at Notre Dame in football. This just so happened to be 2008 when Pitt had LaShawn McCoy and beat the Fighting Irish in 4 overtimes. As a lifelong Notre Dame fan, like I just mentioned, I had to hold my emotions not only in the press box, but then I had to talk about the Panthers' victory in all of my sportscasts to follow. In this next clip from the Crack in the Bat on Irish Baseball TV, Shaun Clancy talks with retired MLB slugger, the mayor himself, Shaun Casey.
Before we go, I want to just touch briefly on growing up. What did it mean to you to be Irish?
Well, I always loved, my heritage because my dad was so big on that, they had traced it back. I believe it was during the potato famine. Two teenage Casey boys came over from County Cork, and I believe they were up in they came up in Vermont is where initially they came from Ireland. And I just remember that story when I was younger, just being so proud that like we were of Irish descent. My mom too her maiden name's McHugh, and her mom's maiden name was Gilmartin. So we have just a lot of Irish heritage in our family, and whenever we have family reunions, we all took a lot of pride in being from Ireland, and so it's always meant a lot to me. And it's just always been a big part of our life.
Obviously, our listeners on the Irish Baseball Podcast aren't all Irish American, but I imagine that the majority of us can relate to Shaun Casey with that story. I know that personally, my last name of Becker is very German, but that comes from my father's side of the family. On my mother's side, I've been able to trace the Doherty family from County Donegal all the way back to the first relative to venture for the United States in the 1850s. I even got the chance to visit his grave site in a small, almost forgotten Catholic cemetery between cornfields in Quarryville, Pennsylvania. That immigrant tradition is such a big part of what we do at the Irish American Baseball Society and the Irish Baseball Podcast. So many of us watched Shaun Casey play for years and watch him on a nightly basis as a broadcaster on the MLB network. We knew he had an Irish name, but it's great to hear his connection to his Irish heritage. We're going to wrap this up with one more segment from the Crack in the Bat show on Irish Baseball TV. Here, Shaun Clancy asks the hard questions of New Yorker Mike McCarthy, who's now in the Windy City as part of the Chicago Cubs marquee sports network.
So now, are you a New York pizza guy, or have you gone over to the dark side and you're now a deep dish guy?
There is no pizza here. There's no shredder. There's no rumors about it. They have something that they refer to it as pizza, but it's not. It's not. I think Jon Stewart said it's like it's something that you would flick coin in and make a wish, and you'd wish for a real pizza. That's what his description.
Well, I mean, you're just more.
Yeah.
When you're on the subject, I mean, did you buy into the St. Louis pizza? Because, like, obviously we were the home of the Cardinals. Here's the thing: they use that Provel cheese. I had to get it specially ordered from a place. You can't burn that stuff. It should be. They should use it for. And I said to people, I said, "How in the world? First of all, you cut it into squares, which doesn't make any sense." I said, "And you put this stuff on it that doesn't burn." You know, I mean, it's terrible.
As someone with no dog in this fight who never lived in New York or Chicago, I feel I can give my unbiased opinion that there is nothing like a New York slice of pizza. Those 3 clips are from the Crack and the Bat show on Irish Baseball TV. See the full interviews at irishbaseball.org, where you can also find previous episodes of the Irish Baseball Podcast and become a member of the Irish American Baseball Society. For my colleague Jim Ward, who had a fun interview with Portland Sea Dogs shortstop Ryan Fitzgerald, and for Shaun Clancy, host of the Crack and the Bat show on Irish Baseball TV, I'm Rick Becker. This has been episode 14 of the Irish Baseball Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Irish Baseball Podcast. The Irish Baseball Podcast is a production of the Irish American Baseball Society. Visit us online at irishbaseball.org and connect with us on social media. And remember, there's no place like home.